just started. I don't know if you can make it out, but this is a lot of rain.
Tiny islands in the eastern Caribbean with 185-mile-per-hour winds. Early video shows just part of the destruction. The Category 5 storm made its first landfall overnight on the island of Barbuda. A government message from nearby Antigua ended with the words, "May God protect us all."
Irma is the most powerful Atlantic hurricane ever measured outside the Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico. It's expected to pound the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti during the next 48 hours. Those islands could see more than a foot of rain and storm surges up to 20 feet high.
Our correspondents are in the Caribbean and Florida, where Irma is expected by Sunday. We begin with Tony DeCopel in San Juan, Puerto Rico, which is bracing for landfall in just a few hours. Tony, good morning.
Good morning. That wall of clouds behind me is the first sign of Irma here in Puerto Rico. The winds are already starting to pick up, and later today, within hours, the eye of the storm is expected to be about 50 miles off of this coast, battering the capital of Puerto Rico. Hotels are folding up their operations. Stores in town are boarded up or completely stripped clean of supplies. This hotel is using plywood and sandbags, anything to keep the water out. And the governor warns that this storm could be more dangerous than Hurricane Harvey. Irma slammed the northern Leeward Islands overnight, including Antigua, Barbuda, and St. Martin, bringing powerful winds and coastal flooding. President Trump has declared a state of emergency in Puerto Rico, and forecasters say the island hasn't seen a storm the size of Irma since 1928, when Hurricane Felipe killed nearly 3,000 people. This time, the governor has preemptively opened dozens of shelters, and I can tell you, for the 3.4 million residents of this island, the big concern as the rain starts to fall here is toppled power lines and buildings. The head of the island's power company warned that when Irma comes through here, dark spots could exist on the island for between a week and 6 months, Nora.
Wow, that's difficult. Tony DeCopel in Puerto Rico.
Hard to ignore what's happening with Irma. I mean, this is now historic in terms of how strong it is. 185-mile-per-hour winds. We've only had 4 other hurricanes in the Atlantic that have reached that strength. You can see them listed here, the strongest of which had winds of 190 miles per hour, and that was Allen back in 1980. So this storm is historic, and it is actually maintaining those 185-mile-per-hour winds this morning. You can see the center right now, the eye, going through the Leeward Islands. Next stop here is the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, and that will happen over the course of this day as it moves to the west-northwest. But I got to tell you, Irma's not the only thing happening in the tropics. We have Jose, a tropical storm, and we also have Katia that has just developed this morning. So it is very active. This is typically the peak of the hurricane season, and that is what we're seeing. Good news with Jose, though, even though it does strengthen into a hurricane, it's going to stay out in the Atlantic, and Katia is actually going to loop around and head back into Mexico. So neither one of those two storms appear to be a threat for the U.S. That is not the case with Irma. You can see it is forecast to maintain that Category 5 strength as it goes by just north of Puerto Rico, goes by just north of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and then it will weaken a little bit. But moving through the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas is a Category 4 hurricane, going to do a lot of damage. And then look at this now, a decided shift with the track of this here that has just come in with the 5 o'clock advisory from the Hurricane Center. You can see now it does make that turn, now cutting right through the central part of the peninsula. So again, we want you to focus on the cone with some wiggle room, but this has shifted from more encompassing the eastern Gulf of Mexico to now shifting a little bit farther eastward here. And that has to do with our computer models that did produce that shift overnight as well. You can see a lot of them now focusing on the peninsula or points eastward as this comes up and then eventually will weaken over the southeastern United States. But big concerns this morning for Florida, of course. Now, this is a triple threat with the storm surge, destructive winds, and also flooding rains. And unlike Harvey, this is not going to sit over the same area and dump rainfall, but the storm surge, as this comes through the Turks and Caicos and the southeastern Bahamas, could reach 15 to 20 feet. And that's the case wherever the center goes by to the west. So that'll be a concern for the eastern part of the Florida Peninsula as well. So there you see the track on Jose.
There's only been one hurricane in recorded history in the Atlantic that has been stronger. 1980, it was Allen, and it was only 5 miles per hour stronger. If we continue to see this eye wall around Irma strengthen with convective activity, if it surrounds that eye, we'll easily probably max out where Allen was. But we've got big concerns here. I mean, this is a buzzsaw heading toward the northern islands of the Lesser Antilles. And this is going to really decimate some of the islands. Not just some of the more fortified buildings, but across many islands, the loss of electricity, power, communications, maybe water. We've got the warning still in effect for Anguilla, St. Kitts, Nevis, Antigua, Barbuda. Then also in place today with warnings, British and U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. Their conditions will start to deteriorate tomorrow. You can see the wind flow. This model, a little different than others, slides it toward the Turks and Caicos, where they're looking at a possible storm surge up to 15, 20, even maybe 25 feet in a few locations, and that includes southeast Bahama Islands. This would be a good time, I think, to show you the radar. This is out of Martinique and Guadeloupe. You can see the eye. This is about 23 miles in diameter. This is going to swallow Barbuda and Anguilla. Most likely, those islands will get inside the eye. Now, the winds are going to be light when that happens, but they've got to put up with the ferocious winds, not just on entry, but on exit. So as we continue to look along, and I want to point out, this is Jose. Jose could be a hurricane soon. I don't think it's going to move in the same direction. A fish storm, let's hope, out in, of course, the open waters. The National Hurricane Forecast has this, and this is staggering, Wolf. A catastrophic hurricane is Category 4 or 5, and it continues as a Category 5 and then 4 closer to the U.S. mainland. It is almost impossible, really, for storms of this magnitude to continue to have this kind of strength for this period of time. It's like taking a top and spinning it on your kitchen table. That vertical centrifugal force can only withstand that for so long before it starts to wobble. That's what this will do. When it wobbles, it goes through a reorganization process. It's called an eye wall replacement cycle. It takes about 10 to 12 hours. We'll probably see that happen 2, maybe 3 times. But because it's in extremely warm water and getting into warmer water, that strength, yep, we can understand that now with the models. They continue to be in extremely good agreement. The environment, there is no dry air, there is no wind to shear it apart. Last month and the month before, we had Saharan dust, so it kept activity low. Sometime on Saturday, we expect to turn to the right, pick the system up to the north. We were hoping for a small window that sooner than later it would get picked up, possibly slide past the Outer Banks into the open Atlantic. That window is pretty much shutting down. We cannot disregard the possibility of that momentum carrying it into the Gulf of Mexico. Let me show you a couple models here. First of all, this is rainfall. This will give you a good idea that that center most likely will stay over open waters. Notice this other little shift here? That's Jose. So we know it's not going to follow the same path and get in the open waters. That's good. But this model shows heavy amounts of rain into Cuba, where we could have easily over 20 inches. We're already looking at isolated, maybe 12, 15 amounts. This is the European model, and it takes it into the high terrain of Cuba, the central spine of the mountains, central Cuba toward the east. That can help break the system down. But that water is extremely warm in that 90 miles between Cuba and the U.S. Look where it places it. Now, we're going to watch this and going to kind of compare it to the U.S. model. Woof. The agreement with these two systems really is amazing. But the farther out you go in time, even if you're projecting rainfall in your own neighborhood by next Monday, there's going to be some differences. But there's not much. The American model brings it closer to the Bahamas and the east coast of Florida. If we show both of these models back to back, because one goes to the east coast, one to the west coast, here they are. The U.S. model, the GFS in red, the European, which, by the way, Wolf, last Thursday, the European placed it right here as well. So there's been no difference. Let's take it into time till September 11th. One still on the east coast, landfall near Savannah. The other one, a landfall in southwestern Florida. It's possible it could slide a little bit to the east, a little bit to the west. So, again, we've got to continue to monitor this. And when you look at the timeline, there is time to prepare. Evacuations already trying to take place, preparations, getting the aid, getting the resources in place and as needed. But we're going to watch any interaction with the landmass. We're also going to watch any deviation to the track, to the north or to the south. Any way you look at it, Wolf, a Category 4 or 5 next weekend is considered catastrophic. It's stronger than Harvey. The good news is it's moving faster than Harvey, so it won't drop that kind of rainfall. But we all know what happened to Rockport in Texas with those strong winds, and we're looking at this to occur as a Category 5 over the millions that live, of course, in the Caribbean, making their way, of course, to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and the southeastern U.S. This is an unbelievable storm of its magnitude, and the only thing I can think of, Wolf, that in recent history is Super Typhoon Haiyan that devastated the town of Tacloban in the Philippines. Of course, the crew from CNN was there with Anderson Cooper.
To Miami Beach, where the mayor there, Philip Levine, is getting set to hold a news conference any moment now. You see his podium, and he's walking up to the microphone. So let's take a listen. This is going to be about evacuations from Miami Beach. And again, this is Philip Levine, the mayor there. Let's take a listen.
Thank you all for being here. I know you have a lot of places to cover in Dade County. The reason we called this meeting today, this emergency press conference, is I'd like to make an appeal to the residents and the visitors of Miami Beach at this point. We are anticipating, after my conversation with Mayor Jimenez, a mandatory evacuation that could come tomorrow. It could come on Thursday morning. And the reason for this press conference today is for me to make a personal appeal that I recommend to our residents and our visitors. If you have friends and family and a place you can go, that we'd like you to plan now to potentially vacate the city. The hurricane coming our way, Hurricane Irma, is one of the most powerful storms in the history of the Atlantic Basin. It's more powerful than Harvey, potentially more powerful than Andrew. And in anticipation of this evacuation order, I'd make a personal appeal to our residents to consider earlier than the evacuation order to begin vacating our city, assuming that you have a place to go, family and friends, that you begin leaving the city of Miami Beach. We anticipate, as I said, the county will be ordering an evacuation, possibly tomorrow, possibly Thursday morning. That, of course, is if Hurricane Irma were to continue on the path that it's on today. This storm is very, very powerful. We anticipate that when this evacuation order comes out, there will be a lot of traffic. There are only certain inlets and causeways on and off Miami Beach. So we would like to recommend, I'm personally recommending, you consider leaving the city of Miami.
Buried somewhere under the rubble are her 3 children. 17-year-old Marie, 9-year-old Lizzie, and 3-year-old Ben. On Thursday, rescuers told her they were all dead.
First, they pulled a foot off my daughter, then Lizzie's torso, and finally, the face of 3-year-old Ben, my baby darling. The rest of their bodies are still stuck right here beneath the mud.
Bit by bit, rescuers are uncovering small limbs in this vast terrain. There are no more text messages or phone calls from those trapped beneath to guide them. No more miracle survivors. Almost a week after the landslide, the stench of human remains now hangs over the rubble.
Sierra Leone's president offered these words to grieving citizens.
Let me extend profound condolences to the bereaved families. This is not a tragedy for you alone. It is a tragedy for every Sierra Leonean, because the people who have perished in this disaster are our compatriots.
Initial Red Cross estimates say as many as 3,000 people have been left homeless. The UN says it's assessing the damage and preparing a response.
Mount Sugarloaf sits above Freetown. When you go there, you'll be struck by how all the houses are built in sort of a terrain that goes uphill, and it's the most beautiful sight in the sunshine. But because of the torrential rains that Sierra Leone has been having, the Mount Sugarloaf simply gave way and carried with it all the earth early on Monday morning when people would have been asleep. At the moment, Abubakar Tarawali, the communications guy for the Red Cross in Freetown, is telling us that they have now recovered more than 300 bodies. And it is a fact as well that many of these bodies were dragged down for more than a mile. So rescue efforts are recovering not just bodies, but limbs of people and awful, I'm sorry, so early in the morning, but decapitated people. And the rescue efforts is hampered by the lack of equipment. I spoke to the Red Cross last night. They said they've only got 2 diggers to try and excavate the fallen buildings. And don't forget, the rain is still falling. So even if you are trying to dig people out, the mud will simply suck you down like quicksand. So at the moment, it's very, very important that they get as much help as they can. And we are also learning that the city of Bo, which is Sierra Leone's second city, has also had heavy rain overnight. But luckily for that city, it lies on a far more flat terrain.
As the death toll rises, the grim task of recovering the bodies continues. Many of the victims were buried alive as their homes collapsed. One man saved his own life by leaving his building. I was afraid because of all the rain and the hills all around us, so I came out to see what was happening. The first thing I heard was the mountain behind us. There was a big sound and the ground was trembling. Stones started falling. A stone nearly killed me, so I ran off. When I looked back, all the buildings were covered in mud. Nobody else survived. Sierra Leone's president, Ernest Bai Koroma, came to inspect the devastation for himself in this area outside the capital, Freetown. Hundreds are thought to be lying dead under rubble.
Here to come and save life because it has already been done yesterday. We are only coming now to see how we'll be able to exhume those ones that have been already naturally buried in the ground. We are trying to exhume them and take them to the mortuary and perhaps give them a burial, a safe and sound burial.
With hospitals and mortuaries struggling to cope with the aftermath of the flooding, aid workers are worried about
when the levee breaks. For all you religious Christians and just plain curious researchers, you may want to go to the Bible for the same related info. Since Katrina struck on the 29th, check the 29th Psalm. It says, "The voice of the Lord sitteth upon the flood." See, that's why y'all needed to be in there, you dumb motherfuckers. Come on back while it's flooding. You're doing us a favor. Because your Lord was on the flood. You should have been back there. But the metaphysical significance related to the Kabbalistic computations of the Illuminati will be covered next week with the help and expertise of a brilliant decoder and warrior, Brother A.A. Rashid. He gave me some information that I'm going to incorporate when I get home. I'm going to read. And I want to thank you. If you're getting this tape, beloved, thank you very much for your help and your expertise. That brother, he's right now incarcerated, but he's coming out. And when he comes out, he's going to tear ass. He's got so much heavy shit that I am the one, I'm like John the Baptist. I've prepared you for this, brother. Because get ready and start building your metaphysical, Kabbalistic archives. Because this brother's going to come and show you how these bastards are using the Kabbalah, sorcery, and your own magic as Condoleezza being high priestess to be in there and do shit to keep us in check and lock. Alright? Check? Alright. Now, an engineer who wished to remain anonymous said, quote, concrete breaches in one or more levels. That's what he said. Concrete breaches in one or more levels. Concrete, listen, concrete for levees is made of grade 1 strength and is always poured to have a substantial safety factor above the most possible loading. In other words, whatever is set up as the structure's best strength as related, they make it 10 times better. The concrete must be obtained from a certified supplier and tests are usually done to assure up to specs. Put it this way, he said, a breach in the levee is comparable to a building falling down while it was being constructed. Let me say that again. He said a breach in that levee is comparable to a building coming down while you're building it. In other words, it don't happen. In fact, this again is precisely what is being done. Divers inspecting the ruptures, I've already told you. According to the divers, the source spoke in a condition of anonymity. The lab found, quote, we found traces of boron-enhanced fluoronitromino explosives, as well as PBXN 111, indicating that at least 2 types of explosive devices were used. Again, the levees did not break during the hurricane, but an entire day afterwards. In other words, this was straight up murder by drowning. So why Katrina? Very quickly. Well, to understand the true nature of the reptilian NWO agenda in their minds, we must examine who benefits at the end of the national crisis. If anyone here still thinks that this is a natural disaster, they need to carefully examine the subtle use of language in the description of motives, politics, actions, and the results of their agenda. The use of the word refugee again is a dead giveaway that we are at war with a foreign power. And this foreign power just attacked us. This foreign power is the U.S. government. Also, the use of Russian names like Katrina to instigate an attack against the people reveals another clue as to the nature of the Pentagon's psychological warfare. The other one being Ivan. The other one being Ophelia. So was calling this military operation Operation Tsar. Operation Tsar. Tsar. As was shown in the CNN ticker tape below the screen, and skipping 2 or 3 letters of the alphabet to name the next major hurricane, Ophelia. They went from Katrina, and you didn't hear shit, to Ophelia. But check it. You got Katrina and Ophelia. Now you see they play with words in your head. You got Katrina and Ophelia. Katrina and Ophelia. What does it start with? Katrina starts with a what? Ophelia starts with an O. Bang! Check! You're not listening. Not looking. Code breaking. Right? Metaphysical thinking. They're playing over your head. Katrina was a military operation that I named Operation Death March. One general, very quickly, his name is Gary Jones, commander of the Louisiana National Guard Joint Task Force. He said, quote, "This place is going to look like Somalia. We're going to go out and take this city back. This will be a combat operation to get the city under order." To substantiate this, Russian intelligence reported that 2 brigades of Army and Navy elite special forces have been ordered back from the battlefields of Iraq to, quote, take the city back from what one reporter calls a ruthless mob. H.O.K reports in an August 26th article that the camps of ICE, America's road to fascist rule, nears completion as U.S. government accelerates building of its concentration camps. ICE, which is ICE, is a security branch of the police force created to remove internal threats in communities. File states that history shows that the leaders of the fascist nations are never more popular to the masses when they shout of protecting their homeland. All that remains to be done by the American military leaders is to provide the final cataclysmic event to galvanize the citizenry, to force them into relinquishing what little remains of their freedom. And these plans are already on the way. From the Newsmax news service, we see the article entitled "FEMA's Plans for Mass Destruction Reaction and Action." Quote, on January 19, 2003, FEMA posted a special bid notice for one of the agency's largest contract awards ever, offering contracting firms $300 million for a 5-year contract to simply prepare plans to create temporary housing on a scale never before imagined, and then just stand by. Let me say that again. FEMA contracted 100 companies to build with $300 million thatch houses and quick-up houses for hundreds of thousands of people on a scale never before seen, and then just stand by. Just wait. In fact, the name of the project was titled Standby Technical Assistance for Disaster-Related Operations. FEMA officials met with the representatives of firms seeking the bids, approximately 100. FEMA officials made it very clear that the purpose of the meeting, one of the most massive undertakings in the agency's history, was to prepare for potential mass destruction attacks in U.S. cities. Those who attended the meeting told Newsmax that most of the meeting dwelled with how the firms should handle biological, chemical, and nuclear disasters. Now next week, or the 25th, when I speak to you again, I'm going to break down how HARP is designed to create nuclear devastation without radiation. Let me say that again. HARP is designed to create nuclear devastation without radiation. And you know what? HARP is working right now. As your economies begin to crash, you will see more and more of such predicted devastation. And coupled with the new bankruptcy acts of 2005, will cause the activation of the above-mentioned standby assistance disaster relief. Americans, or actually U.S. citizens, will be systematically evicted from those areas targeted by the Illuminati bankers under the cover of so-called natural disasters and terrorist-related attack scenarios. As citizens, by the first successful exercise of the policies of mass population movement and land reclamation by the New World Order, Americans are soon to experience the inquisitional terror of the Jesuit order's reductions, what became known later as concentration camps. The first such reductions or concentration camps by the Jesuit order were the Guarani reductions, which lasted from 1600 to 1750. You see, the American aristocracy, who are blood related to the European aristocracy, and who owe allegiance to the Vatican aristocracy, want the lands back from the unwashed, low-life masses, to resurrect the European feudal system of master and serf, and to finally turn the continental landmass into an aristocratic, elitist Disneyland. And if you don't believe what I have just said, and that we are scheduled for eviction as black and poor peoples, I now read to you a top-secret 1983 KGB memo that became known after the fall of the Soviet Union, was disseminated amongst the Politburo membership, and it reveals some ominously chilling plans that were being implemented by the parasitic elite. Listen carefully, brothers and sisters. It appears that the landmass called America will, and in this very near future, be reseeded with wild animals from Africa, lions, elephants, cheetahs, baboons, and South American orangutans. Oh, get ready. Did you hear what I just said? No, you didn't. They're about to bring lions and tigers and bears to your backyard.
Right.
And if you ain't out, you fool. Let me say this again. The American aristocracy sees this land as a playground. And all you niggas thinking you living up in the hills to get away, they're coming after your ass. Right. They are evicting you from places where they have plans to rebuild playgrounds for the very super rich.
Right.
The Gulf Port is going to be protected from any hurricanes in the future by heart. And let me just tell you something. How many people fly in planes? How many people trust the pilot? You have to, right? Why? Why? Why do you need to trust the pilot? All that right there!
What do you say again, sir?
The pilot's not flying the fucking plane!
Oh, okay.
He's not even landing it! Alright, let me say this again to you.
Okay.
Your pilot doesn't, you know what? Brother Leon told me that his teacher is ex-military, Air Force. And he shook up the whole goddamn class by saying, the pilots don't fly the plane. Well, why are they necessary? Well, they make the passengers feel comfortable.
Right.
There's a motherfucker someplace with a joystick.
Right.
Flying your damn plane. How many people would get on if they knew that? I just came back from London.
Remote control.
I didn't want to tell her that the pilot's back there doing this.
It could be a high frequency signal too.
Like I said,
they're being shown that in movies too, Phil, a lot of times.
Oh yeah. All right, now I'm writing it down. Brothers and sisters, the true death toll is nowhere near the ridiculous numbers being given by the prostitute press selling their political pimps' political agenda. The more accurate and logical figure is what I said, given at the level of devastation. The amount of body bags that was sent in. You can gauge the amount of devastation by the amount of body bags requested. The amount of body bags that were requested and piled up in St. Gabriel's quarters was 75,000. Yes, actually 50,000 people so far, the majority of which were black and brown people, were coldly and systematically murdered on national TV by FEMA and other black ops branch of the government. Yeah, well, you know, I just gotta be. We gotta go. Can we get the light out there?
No, you can't take this light out.
No, you can't get that light out. This light was out. No,
you can't come out.
All right.
Everything is good. We can see it.
There he is, washing his hands. Decontamination. Specific aerosols that they have in there to make sure of that. All right. Hazmat formats. I think I'm getting this. Phil, you're gonna get hooked on that, man.
Oh, no, you're being...
He put the wrong one in there, I think. Oh, hold on. Yeah, I'll find it. Yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a look at these pictures because I titled this one "The Suffering."
Right.
Brothers and sisters, this sister you know is poor. And you know, I've timed it so that you can see it for like maybe 15 seconds. It's going by itself. Look at these babies and that mother, determined.
Right.
Look at the buses, the floods. And we're going to go through this because it's necessary for us to see this so that we have the empathy necessary to deal with what's going on and essentially to get ready to be prepared so that we don't be surprised like this. Because they were surprised. And because they were not given, you showed this one.
Right.
Of people helping people. Brother in the back was like not strong enough to grab the other brother. I mean, the sister is passed out completely. This man takes the covers off of a woman that is dead, frail. He's saying, look at what's happening. Look at the future and the past. Look at how fragile. That child can't be no more than a month. And that poor woman is no more.
Right.
This is the frightening one where we see the desperation in people who were taken by surprise. Brothers and sisters, I don't want to be cold and calculating, but these are the faces of the unsuspecting. 99% of our community are these people.
Right.
Do not be the unsuspecting.
Phil, and that scene right there too, they was passing up their babies to the guards. And they was taking their babies from them.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of them was crying because they didn't want to give their babies.
And they were taking them at one. That was the ones who were being evacuated, and the evacuation. One, they said, "Give us the children. We'll be back in 25 minutes."
That's right. They had to give up
They
their
never
children.
came back. When they came back, finally, about 5 or 6 hours later, they were told that the babies were taken to Baton Rouge. When they came back 6 hours later to get them, they took the parents to Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, the same thing happening on the slave blocks is happening down there. Now, I had to put one cracker in there because essentially the poor whites is down there and they niggas too.
Right.
So the white trash themselves are beginning to see, and that's why you see them the way they are. They hate niggas, but they hate the government too.
That's right.
They hate the fucking government. And they have no bones about it because that's their family.
That's right.
And they hate them with a good passion. You love your government. That's why all of your emotions are displaced. You see? So now white and black don't make no difference when you're in the same fucking boat because they don't want the white trash or the black trash.
At that moment.
Quote unquote. I want you to take a look.
Done.
I want you to see the symbology.
Point at
Peanuts, the peanuts. Almighty Dick. But take a look. It's not even about that. What it is the angle of the shot is making a statement.
Right.
And if you are into metaphysical thinking, everything that you see is not an accident. You interpret based upon what you see, because all of the pictures have a relevance in time, which is why they are waging war in time. See, that's the next class. How the war is being waged in time by time.
And I know On the 25th, you're going to get into the banks and all that.
Oh, everything.
You know how the government was taking all that money out the banks and all that, brother.
Please, they didn't have no money to take because they were printing the shit up like Monopoly. There was no money. The money you got is privately minted crap owned by 7 families. The old dollar. Look at mama.
Right.
This is the people they left behind. This is the people that these crackers on them white stations who said that we scum. Who said you had fair warning to get the fuck out. How is mama going to get out? Right. Unless you helping mama out. Huh? This is the scene. Might as well be downtown Manhattan. You're walking at least, what, a foot of water? And this is after it receded? Because when you were looking at it the last time, the stop signs were up here, and the water was just below it. Look at this cracker here.
Right.
And look at us. Familiar. You got the brother with a shirt on. I don't know if he's even part of them. Where's his gun?
Right.
Look at this situation. I want you to see the situation of the majority of black people. And the thing about it is, when the media was doing shit, when the media was looking at this, they would go in a sea of black people to try to find the one white person to interview. I'm saying, wait a minute, how were they angling that shit to find the motherfucker? Much less go up and get the camera there. But they found them. Because the empathy is not for the black folks, because those were the victims that they were aiming at. And you don't want to show that. See, you want to show intrepid white people making sure that their houses are together. You know, we're here to stay.
Propaganda.
Look, I want you to see the conditions. These are some of the buses that arrived after 8 or 9 hours, or after sleeping 2 or 3 days before it came. These are the cots.
Right.
Setting it up. Remember, those were the buses that were taking them to this place, to the dome. Now the dome is being set up. You're going to get as many cots so people can get asleep, blah, blah, blah. And so everything's tranquil. This is where we play our games. This is where America goes to forget and to enjoy.
Out on the floor too, Phil. They take their time to draw square blocks.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Most definitely. This is your piece of territory, you refugee, you. And then they started coming to the door. They were waiting outside for days. Days. In the sun. No water. No food. Urinating where they can. Defecating where they can. That's where they were. Standing outside trying to get in. But then it became overloaded. And the crackers said you can't come in no more. Nobody is there. You got to go back. I'm sorry. But what the fuck are we going to do out here? They told us to come here.
They had 2 hotels across the street.
Death March. Death March. Operation Death March. That's what was left outside. The humanity that you're seeing out there is what couldn't fit in the dome. Brother's saying, where the fuck is everybody? What's going on? Can we get some love out here? Of course.
Water.
Gas.
Gasoline.
Oh, gas and water.
They had the gas pump. Very, very orderly because they still have homes. Now, the niggas started coming out. I got to go find Jesus in all of this. Now I was wondering where Jesus was when he was flooding the motherfucker. You. Wiping out your home.
Yeah.
Were you calling on Jesus there? Did Jesus cause this? And if he did, I know they had a bunch of church-going people in there.
And who they talk to? Jesus. Jesus. And who is supporting this? First place we run when we think shit's going down. This is negative action. This is waiting for somebody to help you. This is welfare minds. Religious welfare. And here we have our benevolent ass village idiot. They always send the village idiot in to cheer people up. There's a bumper sticker that says, there's a village that's missing an idiot. She's telling the real deal, he's there to campaign. But that final indignancy, the final indignancy was this motherfucker. Hugging on a black woman, probably getting his jollies. Sound like he felt good rubbing up against the black woman. Look at him. Oh, you remind me of Condoleezza.
Oh, Lord.
Look at the pleasure in his face. God damn, the nigga gonna come. Look at him. But look at the hero.
Right?
Look at my little man here. Go ahead and take care of your little baby son, brother or sister, or whatever. That's how it's supposed to be done. Little heroes and sheroes, and I'm ending out with the fact that they covered the bodies over after all. This was the final epitaph. This is exactly what they wanted New Orleans to be. A place where everything and everyone associated with it would die. Essentially, brothers and sisters, and I'm going to come to the point where I'm going to, what time we got? 2 more, hour and a half?
Yeah, hour and a half.
All right. I'm going to do something now. Okay. I'm going to do something now before I get ready to get to the next phase. And I'm going to get to, I'm going to get to this. Yes. I want you all to see something because I want this to be in your minds as all this shit starts coming out to try to cover up. Because you know they're going to cover this up. They're going to spin this shit until it seems that black people are the ones who caused the storm. Right, we made it. Okay. Now listen carefully, brothers and sisters. The New York Times reporter, David Andrews, or Andrew Revkin, wrote about the 17th Street Canal, the source of most of the water that submerged New Orleans. General Carl A. Stokes, commander of the Corps, which is the Army Corps of Engineers, said that plugging the gap was a lower priority. The Army Corps of Engineers is directed by FEMA. Dr. Shea Penland of the Pontchartrain Institute was surprised at what happened because the break in the levee took place, quote, along a section that was just reinforced with a concrete wall 7 feet thick. One Alfred C. Naomi, Special Projects Manager for the Army Corps of Engineers, said, now listen carefully. Naomi said, now remember, the chicken shit mayor who first had a ball before they took it is going to say no. He's the one saying, oh, look at all that water. It had to be the water. He's said to say that. Now, Here's what the Army Corps of Engineers, the people who built this shit, said. Naomi says, Special Projects Manager for the Corps, there were still unclear hints why the main breach in the flood barriers occurred along the 17th Street Canal. Normally a conduit for vast streams of water pumped out of the perpetually waterlogged city each day, and which did not take the main force of the waves rolling in the lake. In other words, the place where you pump it out is where it broke, which doesn't make any sense, because that would be the place where the pressure was being relieved.
Right.
He said that a low spot marked on survey charts at the levee near the spot was ruptured and it was unrelated, and that the depression was where a new bridge crossed the main narrow canal at the lakefront. He stated that the low spot marked on survey charts of the levee near the spot, and that the depression was where a new bridge crossed the narrow canal near the lakefront. Now, this would completely disqualify the claims by the authorities that a dip in the retaining line or walls might have allowed water to slop over and start the collapse. A more profound series of ear witnesses, this is ear witness accounts, were stated in many blogs. Now, a blog, if everybody knows, is a log, a personal log of people. And he said, these are average citizens. For example, a woman named Andrea Garland, a white woman now relocated in Texas. She wrote, quote, also heard that part of the reason our house flooded is they dynamited part of the levee after the first section broke. They did this to prevent uptown, the rich part of town, from being flooded. Apparently, they used too much dynamite, thus flooding part of the bywater. So now, I know who's responsible for flooding my house. Not Katrina, but my government. This is the exact same scenario that was played out some 78 years ago, 1927. The Mississippi River broke the banks in 145 places, depositing water at depths up to 30 feet and covering some 27,000 square miles of land in 1927. This past disaster helped shift the demographics of our entire nation, causing tens of thousands of Delta living Africans to migrate into the northern states. That year, it was found that the white New Orleans business class had pressured the state government to dynamite the levee upstream, releasing the waters into mainly black areas of the Delta in 1927. In fact, that year, check this, black workers were forced to clean up and rebuild and work on flood relief at gunpoint. Wow. Levees were also blown up after the hurricane that was called Betsy in 1965. So what makes you think they didn't blow it up 18 days ago? Check it. After Katrina had struck, 25 ear witnesses stated that they distinctly heard muffled but powerful explosions just before the waters thundered into the city. FEMA operatives are now under orders to discredit their accounts or to find these ear witnesses and eliminate them. However, an American, French, and Russian coalition of friends are keeping most of these people hidden. The London Observer newspaper carried the story of a 19-year-old boy who was a meat cutter named Correll Williams. The story said, quote, Williams only left, listen, this is from London, you didn't hear this shit here. The interview said, Williams only left his apartment after the authorities made the decision to flood his district in an apparent attempt to slush off some of the water that had submerged a neighborhood district. Like hundreds of others, he had heard the news of the decision to flood his district over the radio. I want that broadcast.
All right.
I'm putting y'all on it. Check the BBC logs and files. check something that might have been out there that may have recorded that event. But it was said over the radio they were going to flood. The authorities had given the people of the district until 5 p.m. on Tuesday to get out. After that, they would open the floodgates. When questioned about the sabotage of the levees at press conferences, a smiling Bill Clinton looked surprised and dumbfounded at the question. He stared straight ahead for a moment and simply walked away. Again, many reports claim that a Category 5 hurricane hit the Gulf Coast of New Orleans. That what you heard? Yeah. A Category 5 hurricane. This is the propagandist lie. A cover-up by the media at the Pentagon's orders, a manipulation of the numbers to cover their tracks. The storm called Katrina was artificially amped to a Cat 5, but by a scalar weapon called Harvey. But by the time it hit land, the geometric tracks or vectors first created by the chemtrails, which are used to give direction to the scalar wave energy, had dropped the storm's intensity to a Cat 2 to 3. Just 100 miles an hour of wind, max, when it passed over the city, not the Cat 4 or Cat 5 that they reported. Hurricane Betsy in 1965 was a whole lot stronger, and it only killed 75 people. No, beloved, this was a cover-up of a different kind. This was mass murder to prevent something or someone from getting out. In fact, the residents of New Orleans in the early stages of the aftermath of the storm did not report any significant damages to the infrastructure of the low-lying areas of the city. However, the storm surge after it hit land did pump enormous amounts of water as it curved eastward, where it caused the Pontchartrain River to rise 3 to 5 feet, which began to threaten the richer neighborhoods, like the gated community of the Audubon, with the subsequent flooding of the levees. Now, I want to tell you something very quickly. For the last 20 years, the Army Corps of Engineers, under the orders of the U.S. government and the corporations, have been building artificial roads back and forth across the 385 miles of marshlands and wetlands that would have acted as the slough point for the water. Today, only 35 miles of marshland was left. There was no place for the water to go. No place for the water to go. The marshlands were gone. So now, the sabotage, and I call it sabotage because of the following. We must look at the forensics of the storm, or we would let the lying bastards of the government and the media press get away with mass murder. If you wanted to destroy the levee and better conceal the act of sabotage, one break would have done it. It would have appeared more random. But 3 virtually simultaneous breaches in 3 relatively distant locations. 1, 2, 3.
Strategic areas?
Strategic areas. 3 breaches occurring at 3 separate events within the same time window at concrete reinforced sites. Now, to cover their mission to blow the levees, commit mass murder, and to cover up possibly an attack on a bioweapons lab containing top secret biowarfare strategies for the U.S. and a cache of bird flu bacillus. Remember they kept telling you that a bird flu is heading this way? And the introductory maneuvers of the infamous Rex 84 program about an hour or less before the levee was set to blow, about 4 a.m., covert ops most likely broadcasted reports of gunfire and looting in those areas where the sabotage was to take place. This is the areas where they reported the gunfire. Are you getting the picture?
Right.
The levees were breached in 3 separate locations in the very early hours of the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, when a majority of children, the sick and the elderly were asleep.
Right.
And it was done the day after the storm.
That's right. That's right.
The flooding didn't happen when the hurricane passed. I would figure that if the hurricane was over there, boom, with all the force of water pounding for all those hours, it would have gone already. In fact, initial reports stated that the breaches completely puzzled the Army Corps of Engineers, because the longest breach was not on the lake, but on a canal used for pumping water out of the city. Those who carried out the sabotage mission under cover of darkness eliminated any straggling eyewitnesses who may have seen them. Thus, people were reportedly found with their throats cut or bullets in their head from a silenced weapon. In fact, the finding of such bodies forced the military to cordon off certain sections from reporters that would have revealed the dead bodies with military bullets and knife slices across their throat. In fact, according to an Associated Press report that was quickly and mysteriously pulled, 5 men found shot to death on the Levee areas of New Orleans were actually Department of Defense workers.
Yes, yes.
Now, wait a minute. Who shot them?
Right.
Their own people. What happened was they were trying to cover up the crime. Why? Because some bridge engineers and structural engineers were coming to examine the breach, and they were there trying to get up, because what happened was, the reason why they were going there was because divers had found pieces of the wall on the ground that had forensics of explosions. So that brought them out. So they had to go there and cover the shit up. But when they came up on them, they said, oh shit. Pow, pow.
Right.
Gun battle. The 17th Street Levee. This is a blog from a New Orleans evacuee named Claire Bartholet. The 17th Street Levee was bombed by the Army Corps of Engineers to save the gated towns of Audubon and the French quarters protected. The 9th Ward was sacrificed. Remember, I just said that. People are afraid to speak out. Everyone who was near there heard the bombings. They bombed 7 times. That's why they didn't fix the levees. 20 feet of water. The alligators at night. People dying in the water. Devoured. They let the parishes go. Not the city center. A tourist trap. They didn't save the human life. There's film of the alligators devouring bodies and dogs carrying off pieces of bodies from trying to get them. From evacuee Diane Stafford, another one. They blew the levee to save the city, saying that a large barge broke through. I tell you what, for all you rocksters, I think you should go and get Led Zeppelin's old record. Not so much with any sophisticated scalar weapons that we're going to investigate, but simply with a few well-placed explosives at strategic points in the levee. Still another clue to it being a covert Black Ops military operation of highest priority is the presence of the little-known Special Forces unit, which is essentially a private unit called Blackwater Security. Private security force that were first heard of in Fallujah when 3 were killed by the people. When the people killed 3 of their members who were trigger happy. Now back to the body count. Reports from the Army Corps of Engineers manning the super pump unit. There's something called the super pump unit, and this was brother out in Texas, Brother Mahir. He was part.
Mahir, right.
Brother Mahir was part. He used to be with Army Corps of Engineers. Brother Mahir told me a buddy of his got word that members of the engineering corps manning the super pump unit, a pump that moves about 1 million gallons an hour, had to stop their operations because the area where they were pumping the waters became clogged and backed up with bodies and body parts. Also, hundreds if not thousands of people were washed out to sea with the first great surge of water after the levees were blown. So much so that the Navy hired over 100 fishing vessels with super nets to prevent the bodies from washing up on the Florida coastlines. Wow. So, see, only in the underground will you hear what's going on. Or you may have to go over to the net and know where to go. Also lost in the destruction of New Orleans, and this will never be discussed in any forum dealing with average black people, is the loss or total destruction of the ancient maps, which show that the ancestors of Africans or Moors are the true owners of the lands from which they were and are now being evicted. Ancient maps, as Brother Mahir in Texas reminded me, showing, for example, that Brazil was once called Egypt West, and Africa and South America were much closer, even attached. And the Moors were in the Americas for millennia, and that the lands of North America, called the Mexim, had Kemetic, Arabic, and Hebrew names. I don't know about y'all, but I'm getting angrier by just hearing this shit. Beloved brothers and sisters, beyond the sheer devastation brought about by this act of weather-modified public ops mass murder in New Orleans, this event has triggered what history will show as a racial exodus of such magnitude not seen in the South since the Great Migration, pushed for jobs up north. It is also reminiscent of the forced migrations in the 19th century of the Cherokee people from their ancestral lands east of the Mississippi River to Oklahoma in what was then called the Trail of Tears. Even sadder still is that house niggas from soulless Christian conglomerates are totally self-absorbed and psychologically removed from this act. In fact, we are yet to see one of these high-profile Jesus pimp niggas come forward. They are ominously silent except to say that voodoo is what destroyed New Orleans.
That's what they're saying.
It's interesting to note that when you called to evacuate came out, not one Christian minister, as I repeat myself, came out and grabbed the people. They only got their own Christians, because those were the saved people. One pathetic example of a church house nigga, what I refer to as a masochistic nigga. Let me say that again. A masochistic nigga. See, I'm a wordsmith. And I do look at masochistic motherfuckers and I wonder why they like to punish themselves so much. Well, I have a new name for the jigaboo buck dancer. I have a new name for his sickness. He's a masochistic nigga. Shop people. Shopping. Yep. I want to get to this point.
That was a hell of a shot, right?
Yeah, I'm going to get back to that. But I want to get to this point before I go back. Matter of fact, why don't I just do that? Before I even load this up. Why don't I go back to this? And alright, now here's your levee break. Here's the river. Here's the water estuaries. These levees are what are keeping the waters back. Again, this is the section from the 17th Street Canal that went. 7 explosions were heard in all. Maybe 2 or 3 here, and the rest at the other locations. But they heard at least 7. Approximately an area of 200 feet were broken at that level. You see all that water that it's keeping back? It's being channeled into a canal to keep it away from the residential areas. Here's the downtown French Quarters.
Right.
Here's the dome. Now remember that when the mayor said get out, they sent buses in, or they sent buses in on the other side of town and told the niggas that they had to get through the white quarters in order to get to those buses. They were met by crackers, as well as Israeli defense forces of the Mossad and the Mizrahim, and were turned back, went back to their deaths. That's the French Quarter that was saved. The breach and the overflow. Remember, when this sin happens, This keeps rushing in order to rush it out. It all came this way. And what they did was, in the breaking of it, they had to break it on whatever side that the black people were, so that the water drained off to where black people would be. This is the area of the bridge where the 5 men were shot, because they came to investigate this.
Right, the water's coming through.
Water's coming through, serious water. And they said, wait a minute, that don't even look correct. How could this piece right here, reinforced, how could that have been broken? It wasn't broken. It was blown up. And they had a gun battle right there where the police iced them. Said they killed 5 or 6. One was still in critical condition, but they weren't going to let you know. And the secret of that is 3 separate or 4 separate reports on that incident came out. I'm going to read them to you.
Absolutely. That's a powerful shot.
Here go another powerful shot of how the blow destroyed. And how, look at this. Right. Now this is a barge. Supposedly what they used, they put their back, that's the incidental, so that they can use that as the forensics. Well, they said, well, the barge did it. No, the barge was introduced later. This is all life, human beings. That's what's left. Water seeks its own level. Now here it is again. This is blown to save the quarters. Now they didn't care all about here. This is already underwater. But this was blown to save this part. Down here in the lowlands, brothers and sisters, now, to cover it real quick, they tried to do what they were releasing. So much water was coming in, and so many reporters were in the area where this section of the breach was there, so they had to do something. The rest of it, they said, fuck it, leave it. So they breached it because too many white people's homes were being threatened. This is the flood of 1927.
That's the one in New York?
No, that's New Orleans.
Because there was one in New York too.
Well, yeah, but New Orleans, we're using the forensics of New Orleans because even back then, the people who owned the businesses went up to the state's government and demanded that they blow the levee and wiped out all of the black communities and towns, killing at least 60 people. Excuse me, brothers and sisters. Okay, I have to do this stuff here and get you out of here, right? All right. Where's my computer? Okay. All right, we're back again. I'm learning this. I'm doing pretty good. All right, y'all. Are you ready to meet a masochistic nigga?
Masochistic?
Yeah, he's here. Don't you get to know this man? Because I just had to include him in here. You know, I didn't know. I was going to let him pass. But I figured that it was necessary for me. Where is it? Yeah? Okay, good. Alright, now, I want you to take a look at this house, Negro. And what we're going to do...
Look like...
Brothers and sisters, This came out over CBN. This is Pat Robinson's house Negro to call on when he wants the 700 Club to hate niggas, but to love this kind of Negro. Listen carefully. People looting themselves. Wellington says, thank you, Sonia. There is the compassionate side of the story, and then the responsible side of the story in New Orleans. We need to consider the culture of those people, still stranded in New Orleans. The looting of property, the trashing of property, etc., speaks to the basic character of the people. Wellington can't believe that as they are on the world stage, the people are looting themselves. These people who have gone through slavery, segregation, and the Voting Rights Act are doing this to themselves. They look like a developing nation. Wellington is looking for the cry of cultural disapproval. But he says it is also an opportunity for extravagant benevolence. Wellington also is outraged at the sudden spike in gas prices, calling that blah, blah, blah. What the body of Christ must do for the Gulf Coast. Wellington says we must realize that the entire lives of our fellow citizens will be reconstructed. Kids will miss an entire year of school. Single mothers have absolutely nothing for their children. This weekend, families from Wellington's church are taking in 9 displaced families. We need to think of going to New Orleans, preaching the gospel, and feeding the people. Preaching the gospel before feeding the people. Listen carefully, people. While Americans look to everything from million-man marches to rock concerts and television sitcoms, now I want y'all to wait. Are you all paying attention?
Yes.
Are you all paying attention?
Yes.
Is the church paying attention?
No.
Oh, good. Is the MU Metaphysical Underground Blue Children paying attention?
Yes.
Well, listen up carefully, goddammit. Wellington Boone offers readers a surprising path to fulfillment. Be a worm. Be a worm. Listen. Sound harsh, maybe, but the author of Breaking Through writes that as common as worms are in the dirt, they are as rare and precious as fine diamonds in the church. Worms are people who allow themselves to be broken and humbled as they model Christ's character. They seek to serve rather than to assert their power and authority. As a result, they become leaders and reconcilers between man and God, between races and nations, taking God's kingdom into the culture. Boone inspires readers to choose the worm's path of humility, recounting the stories of faithful church fathers like William Seymour, possibly the most important African-American religious leader in U.S. history. Seymour suffered humiliating discrimination by so-called believers to sit in the hall outside the classroom of white students to learn from the Bible. Instead of growing bitter, he started multiracial prayer groups, which eventually led to the Azusa Street revival, an explosion of millions of Pentecostal believers. Known for his ability to bridge racial gaps, Boone challenges the black and white communities to consider worm training. What the fuck? Bullshit! I thought I heard it all. I thought niggas in the church could never surprise me. He don't want you laying in the dirt now. He wants you inside the dirt.
Broken.
Be a worm.
Broken up. Get on a hook.
Broken. Broken and humble. Get a good look at that Negro.
Yeah. Look like Armstrong Wayne. Big worm.
Oh, he should have. Rather than clinging to pride and refuse to identify with weight, rather than clinging and refuse, the white community needs to humble itself and ask forgiveness. And instead of scorning their past, the black community can look redemptively at their history. Wait now! The training in being a slave of man can be added as long-term qualification to prepare them to be a fine slave of God. Woo! And who is God? Worm training isn't the only step toward fulfilling our hunger for something more in life. Prayer and God study. Worm training, y'all!
Worm training.
Maybe worm training. Actually, you know what? I keep bringing it to you.
Worm training.
The nigga wants you to be a worm. Here's more. I didn't get to it. Wait, I did it. Wait. You didn't get to it yet. It's critical adherence to discerning God's will. Carrying out God's plan of reconciliation, experiment, and revival. So important is knowing Scripture. In fact, that boom includes blessed beyond measure, devotional guide to finish. Boom's message is urgent in breaking through. He believes this is a dark hour in which he is declaring the coming of God's kingdom. Yet his message is not one of condemnation, destruction. Instead, who reached out with love, yes, reader, are you hungry? Are you broken? Are you dispossessed? God is calling you by name, waiting to blow a fresh breeze of fulfillment into your life. All you have to do is respond to his call by embracing his vision for our lives, our families, and the world. Whatever the fuck that is.
Read the Uncle Tom's.
Oh yes, wait a minute. Wait. I had to get to that, I forgot. The black community must stop criticizing Uncle Tom. He is a role model. Yo, son, I'm surprised you sitting all quiet. You see what we got to deal with, yo? We first got to deal with word training and now deify Uncle Tom. First of all, Uncle Tom never existed. Uncle Tom was written by a white woman. Uncle Tom is a story of a blue black. Written by a white woman. So he says, what he says here? He's a role model who, when he was stepped on like a worm, at the point of crisis, evidenced the nature of a classic worm model worm. Jesus is a model worm, y'all. Rather than accuse Uncle Tom of selling out, who charge his reasons to sell out themselves until there is nothing left. Nothing. Alright, I figured that y'all needed to see why we are still in trouble and why shit ain't getting done. Yeah? Now, in the final stages as I'm dealing with it, I want to, I don't know if the brother got me to another place yet. No, he got Wellington, but he didn't get the other brother. There is a brother, by the way. I don't know if you ever heard of this brother. No, yeah, we're gonna get to him in a minute, but I don't know if you ever seen this. Ever heard of this dude? His name is Leighton Levy. Black dude who writes for the Jamaica Star. Now, here's another holier-than-thou fair weather Negro. Now, he wrote an article, and I'm going to read part of it to you, because I thought he would get it up for me there on the disc. Let me start by saying, this is what he says, that if I had my life to live over 1,000 times, the one thing I would not change would be my race. I'm proud to be a black man. There are times, however, when I wish that certain people and I did not share that trait. He goes on to say, seeing pictures of the virtually total devastation of the cities. I gotta do this. Seeing pictures of the virtually devastating pictures. Wait a minute, hold on. I gotta get this up first before I start reading this.
I got it. Oops, going back again, right? My computer. Y'all hold on, man. This is like y'all looking at my drawers. You know, I'm trying to change back here. Alright. Now, this is what he's saying now. Seeing pictures of the virtually total devastation of the cities. Total devastation of the cities of the U.S. Gulf Coast by Hurricane Katrina. An estimated 90% of homes in New Orleans have been destroyed by floodwaters, and more than 100 people confirmed dead. The day after the hurricane passed, there were reports of looting, but network reporters had been saying that people were looting out of desperation in search of food and water. A lot they know. The pictures I have been seeing are of people, black people, stealing shoes, diapers, and TV sets, not food, and definitely not water. Not unless the arms full of clothing, shoes, and appliances, I see people wading through the streets with counters, food, and water. Plasma TV? And just what are those guys stealing the plasma TV sets going to be watching when there's no power in the entire city? Desperate? Yeah, right. I'm beginning to believe that black people, no matter where in the world they are cursed with a genetic predisposition to steal, murder, and create mayhem. That's what the nigga said.
Got his picture?
I got his picture, but I didn't get a chance to put it up there. And it has nothing to do with poverty. Where are the white people in all this? I am sure there are poor white people living in New Orleans, Biloxi, and other towns affected by what's going on. Is it that the media is not showing pictures of them looting and robbing? Or is it that they are too busy trying to stay alive, waiting to be rescued, and hiding from the blacks? And you know what? Even if the poor whites were looting and robbing, wouldn't it be nice if the blacks could have made them the only ones doing it? And the coup de grace. Just once. I would like for us black folks to take the high road in situations like this, where instead of showing our darkest side, we put our best foot forward. But I guess that would be too much to ask, too much of a case of wishful thinking. That by a nigger with a pen. He asked, where are the white folks?
That's what he said.
Didn't he ask that?
Yes, sir.
Where are the white folks? It's like my boy said in the movie, Blazing Saddles. Where the white women at? Remember? Where the white women at? Where the white women at? First thing you see.
Mailman? They use the mail truck.
Jay. This is what you get in the pictures. Showing at you, right? Check. Niggas and looters, niggas and thieves. Niggas ain't got nothing to do. We got a predisposition. Genetic predisposition. This hateful, self-loathing black motherfucker, no, white motherfucker turned inside out. This is the lowlife that they let into the media. But you see, if we had people like Khalid still around, you think this nigga, he would have stepped to this nigga like we are supposed to step to this jigaboo, buck dancing, masochistic motherfucker, and make him eat it. Print out 100 copies and throw a little bit of Tabasco sauce and some barbecue sauce and let that motherfucker eat his words.
Phil, those brothers took the mail truck to get away, to get escaped.
I know, to get out.
They stopped them and made them walk, put them on the ground first and just made them walk the rest of the way.
Right. Searched them first. Now check it. What did he ask? What did he ask? Where the white people? They covered their shit up.
Got masses on.
Doing what they do best.
Doing what they've been doing for the last 200 years.
200.
At least on this continent. Where you white people at?
Stealing.
Oh, where you white people at?
They moving. That was given to them.
Oh, the storm gave it to them. They were finding food. I read that in order for you to see that there is an opposite to this equation that you are not privy to. And that what is going on is that we are even making black people think that we ain't no good. And we got niggas like this fighting shit like that. And the biggest looters on the motherfucking planet. Plotting and planning
the New York hit.
Beforehand. There go your looters.
Original looters.
And look at this. Look where the baby's at. Look where the baby's at. Daddy looters. This motherfucker is getting his jollies off. Low life. Low life. Yo, zoom in on that shit. Pedophilic motherfucker. Hey, look at this witch. What does she say? She says, well, they were poor and underprivileged anyway, so this is working out, y'all.
Good for them.
You better off now. Shit's gonna get good. You got no more homes. No life son of a bitch. Coming here to get their little photo ops. I'm gonna tell you where the true looting was.
Right?
Wherever it was, it's still British Petroleum.
That's correct. Amoco.
Now!
Oh. Bama.
See, they tell you that they're going to slip one in. And they're going to make you like him. He's going to come in and going to deliver a speech that is going to rival Martin Luther King's I Had a Dream. He's going to be setting us up so that when you hear Barack Obama, you're going to say, oh wow, brother got an African name. Knew it. Brother's looking good. But you don't know who this motherfucker is. How do you just come out of nowhere and be the keynote speaker at the Democratic National Convention? Because this motherfucker is British intelligence. Just like your boy Colin Powell got his bones for helping in the assassination of Lumumba. That's how Colin Powell got his job.
Check.
Look at this face and don't forget it, because his father was intelligence and so is he. Worked for British intelligence in Africa, in Kenya. And I'm going to get more of the information for you.
Bill Riley said last week on TV that Bill Clinton was the first black president we ever had.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, you know what? That's because a minister said that shit. Some dumb nigga, minister. I just choke up every time I think about it. Bill Clinton is going to be slated, or he is slated to be the next president of the United Nations.
Yes. Yes.
Big time Rockefeller. And Rockefeller's son, exactly. So you check Barack Obama, watch him, he's a mole. And finally, I'm closing this out because I'm going to read part 2, and then we can deal with whatever questions you want. You all right?
All right. Phil, you don't want to save the questions for part 2?
No, we're not doing questions. I'm going to have to finish this off. It's something I have to do that leads us into it. All right, now what we need to do is to show one sure proof of what it is that really brought down and destroyed us. Let me just get this correct for you. All right, foundational overview of just how frighteningly awesome and terrifying the reptilian bastards of the New World Order are going to try to take our lives in over the next 5 years with the calculated exhibition and demonstration of scalar superweapons and its effects on space-time continuum, as well as the evolutionary potential of human consciousness. Again, the hurricane itself, that is the wind, did inflict enormous damage in the outlying areas like Mississippi, demolishing houses and infrastructures. It is hard to tell how many may have passed as a result of the winds and the rains, but the superweapon HO.K and its sister HIPAA, in and of themselves, in this instance, were used as a cover to set up mass murder by drowning. The power of this technology is unprecedented in this time frame of present Earth, but comes ever closer to the power that our ancient Kemetic, Sumerian, Olmec, Mayan ancestors previously possessed and unlocked, a power which, in the wrong hands, led to our ancestors' ultimate destruction. And make no mistake about the people who will take over and rule this country and this earth for a while. They are cold, ruthless, and virtually inhuman in their perceptions of you as a living spiritual being. And our actions and reactions must be as clear, calculated, and emotionless as we ready ourselves to do battle with those who once again wish to enslave us. Do I sound dramatic? You goddamn right. These are dramatic times, and we will do wise to be prepared, each in our own small way, very quickly. As we unlock the intricate sequence of the new weaponry and the method of psionic warfare now and into part 2, we will also be telling you of how to prepare and what to have ready at a moment's notice. We will show you how to protect yourself against psionic and electronic attack, as well as how to stop and reverse the effects of scalar weaponry attack. Part of the solution lies in our over and understanding the technologies of Nikola Tesla, the revolutionary writings of Dr. Gabriel Oyibo, and the ancient sciences of our Kemetic masters, as are practiced in the religious rituals of our indigenous peoples. For now, we'll give you an overview of the forensics, which show that the government of the United States, as well as France, Israel, Russia, China, and Japan, all have access as well as the willingness to use such weaponries since the 1970s. That's right. In fact, one short proof that a weather weapon was used and that such a weapon truly exists, because it is uncanny how the majority of people still cannot fix their minds, their thought patterns, to conceive the fact that we have the power to manipulate the weather, especially Christians. And that is, its use was monitored by the aforementioned countries. And check this out, it is a fact that soon after Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, China, Russia, and France immediately logged an angry formal protest and complaint through the United Nations, condemning the U.S. for using weather modification weapons in violation of their treaty. That's right, I said their treaty. This protest was so embarrassing and potentially dangerous to the peace talks now secretly going on between China, U.S., Russia, North Korea, Iran, and Israel that Bill Clinton himself had to step up in a privately held press meeting to reassure the international community that it wasn't an act of provocation or even a demonstration to influence the talks. Even Bush had to quickly address the General Assembly to reassure them You see, beloved brothers and sisters, there is a 1977 Joint Task Force. Sorry, I thought I brought it. I brought the treaty, but I forgot it. I'm sorry. It's the treaty. There was a 1977 UN joint resolution signed by all member nations and upgraded through the Weather Modification Research and Technology Act of 2005, which states that all participating nations agree not to use weather modification and manipulation technologies against the other member nations. Of course, lawyer Bill Clinton, who by the way is tagged to be the next president, assured the nations that technically they did not use such a weapon against another nation because there are no provisions in the agreement against using the weapon on your own people. Right. And again, such technology has been around since our ancestors, as we will see next week. Yes, we too modified the weather, and now the Caucasoid has caught up. Brothers and sisters, very good.
Right from there, bro. Just go up to file and start the process again.
Go up to the file?
File.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
And just start the process.
Shortcut it. File open? Yeah. And open it again? Oh, thank you for shutting that down. All right, very good. Thank you. Somebody knows what they're doing. I like that. All right, now. All right. This is a map of Alaska, and that is where Hart is. Where you see the dot, that's Hart. But Hart cannot work without HIPAS and the other one, HMS, Fort Greely, a Clear Air Force Station. All these are very strategic buildings.
Can you break down the acronyms?
Okay, I will. Now, Bush tipped his hand about the truth of Katrina when he said at a press meeting, and I think you remember, quote, "It's worse than imaginable. I'm not looking forward to this trip. It's as if the entire Gulf Coast were obliterated by the worst kind of weapon you can imagine." Yes. Do you remember his words? He's right. He's right. And this weapon is followed up by lethal words, cold and reptilian in the way they describe the situation about we, the common people. Barbara Bush saying that the black victims were underprivileged anyway, and then chuckled and said we were better off. Laura Bush calling the hurricane Katrina. Tom DeLay saying that being rounded up and forced into detention camps was, hey, kind of fun, huh? Glenn Beck, talk show host, calling black people as looters, scumbags, and stating he hated 9/11 families who wanted to reopen the hearings. Michael Chertoff calling Louisiana a city. Dick Cheney stating at a press conference that in essence the hurricane victims were very grateful for the treatment by the federal government. The Army Times magazine reported that hurricane survivors who didn't want to leave New Orleans would be treated as insurgents like the people of Iraq, and get this, combat missions were in progress to weed them out. FEMA rounded up the evacuees and treated them as detainees, registering them and giving them ID cards and preventing them from leaving the camps. On every house, now listen carefully, this is the point. On every house in the 9th Ward, you see spray painted numbers and letters. Listen carefully. You see a large X. Now the large X is painted on the sides of the houses. Each quadrant of the X has letters and numbers. At the top of the quadrant, you have a pen. Somebody quickly, thank you. You got a marker?
Alright, I'm going to do this with a marker so we can see what this is about.
You want to use the blackboard over there, or?
Well, that's going to be a little too much time. I'll get a big marker. I can hold it up for the brother and you can see it. Go ahead. On the sides of each of the buildings, that's what it looks like spray painted on the side of the buildings. These are the code words. Now, in each quadrant of the X were letters and numbers, as you see here. At the top, it was 9 to 6 or 9 to 7. To the left, it's TX1. To the right, it was NE, and at the bottom, numbers 1, 2, 3, 7, 5, 11, whatever. The top represented the day of the search. The left represented the military unit that conducted the search. The right represented the code for the type of contamination that was found in the house. And the bottom represented how many bodies were found. It's my son. Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, well, you know, I'm sitting in front of about 60 or 70 people. And they're listening to your program. Oh. Yeah, you got it for work. I'll be almost finished. I can't believe I'm putting this on. It's my son, y'all. I can't believe I didn't put it on vibrate. All right, gotta go. I'll rehearse it, bro. Tiring. I love you too. Peace. Peace. He's got a gig with Genuine. Just for the monies. Just for the cash, he's gonna dance. Show him how to dance. So this is what you're looking at.
Did you say what the TX1 stands for?
TX1 stands for the military unit that conducts it. Okay, and that's what the sides of all of the houses. Now check this out. This is written by a man who was from somewhere upstate, I believe. What's the Rhode Island or somewhere up there? But he said the markings. He said that he found these markings at the top on every house. He saw it on every house in the 9th Ward. That was probably the first ward to get hit when they blew open the And then he goes down as he travels deeper into the ward. Now you got to check this out because I was talking to Chris. And if you read the communique, I've actually kind of edited it. If you read it, he says, as you're going into the areas that they don't want to report on, the water gets blacker. The scene becomes more somber, eerie. How many people saw the Skeleton Key? How many people saw Venom? All right, these movies were shot before the shit hit.
Right.
If you're looking at Venom and you're seeing this, the horror monster coming out the bar, just imagine your whole city covered in that shit. The soldiers they said they encountered there were staring straight ahead. They were like shell-shocked out of Iraq because they were taken straight from Iraq into their homeland. The mentality of the people in there, they didn't speak. They like look through you. Straight up, when you saw that movie, Apocalypse Now, remember the faces? The eyes? The battle worn? He said, when you go in, the stench is like dead meat. And it hovers like a cloud over the city, over the ward itself. And when you turn down certain streets, there's like 3 feet of water. Then 6, then 8, because they're on these hills in different areas.
So that it's flooded at different levels. And when he went over the top of one of them, as you travel deeper in, you see spray painted along the walls, "Fuck Bush. Them bitches flooded us." Let me say that again. The people know. So they had to go.
People in the 9th Ward that they went after.
Yes, because the 9th Ward, wait, you heading ahead or you heading me? The 9th Ward is where the work was done.
Yeah.
The 9th Ward is the mission where you went to get your spiritual work done. So they let it die. They killed the African spirituality in that area. And he went over to the soldiers and he said, "Y'all gonna clean up these bodies?" And that's what he said. The dude looked at him and said, "No." And just walked away. Said he gave him, shot him a cold look like he was gonna shoot him for asking the question. But nobody's speaking. He said there's a silence in there. You may hear a truck every now and then. But all along the houses is this particular symbol with different numbers at the bottom for the dead.
Actually, I have a picture, actually photographed it. Also with that little symbols.
Right.
I can bring it to you.
Okay. Next time we're good. But that's what's going on.
I believe everything you see.
Right. Now, I'm going to go to show you something very quickly. That's HARP again, and the vectors of energy, how it's used. This is how HARP, from this point, affects the areas when you are looking at the operation of HARP. Okay. Now, this is one of the installations where HARP is.
What does HARP stand for?
High Active Auroral Research Project. Okay? HAARP. High Active Auroral Research Project. Quite sure. Matter of fact, they're not calling these things hurricanes anymore. They're calling them harpicanes. Let me get it right. High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project. FIPA, F-I-P-A, is Frequency Independent Phased Array Antenna. And also there is not only FIPA and HARP, but also there's another one that's HIPAS, which is, forgot it. High Independent High Power Auroral Stimulation. Alright? Now, that's part of HARP. This is one of the installations. Check this. That's a picture taken of it while camouflage.
Camouflage, okay. Invisible, like you said.
Invisible. From the air, you can't see that because it's reflecting the surroundings with a special alloy that the surface is made from. So when they turn on the image projector, you get that from the up in the air, so you can't bomb it. That's another installation with a very special paint alloy. Much of what the soldiers are using now is a backpack, so they can disappear.
Underground is about a mile of a city.
No, you got to remember, they are adapting to all terrains, just like this. I'll do it again.
Right.
These are special alloys, special paints, special mirror projections. I see my brother in the back got a little bit of some information for art.
Oh, okay.
These pieces of information from the air, you cannot see it. Again, standing right there. Check.
Check.
Are you looking at the way your technology, you see this technology's been out for like, what, 20 years? But when we out there 25 years, we out there telling you this shit. People say, what the fuck is wrong with her? Yes, brother, quick.
Look up phase conjugated materials.
Phase conjugated material.
Yeah.
Brother says, look up phase conjugated materials.
Yes, there's I've been trying to get material to do some of my adventures.
Right.
I can't get it in the States. I have to order it outside.
Okay.
But there's one material. There's indium.
Indium.
One. Monoatomic elements.
Monoatomic elements.
Which is one. And there's another one, which is another alloy. It escapes me right now, but there's another one.
But it's supposed
there's
to.
quite a few of them, but they're using that for that.
Yes, for that. And this is what they got from the UFO technology process. Yes. We're trying to get our hands on it. Check the jet.
There we go.
Same thing. That's where you get your stealth energy from.
Right.
This guy, these jets are trained to fly very low on the terrain. Extremely low on the terrain. But here, I want to show you. This is a picture of H.O.K. This is a picture of H.O.K. There's your aircraft alert antenna, the temporary radiometer. There's a 48 element high frequency antenna array. 48 element high frequency antenna array. Now you have to remember that each element vibrates at a specific frequency. So these antennas are set to the harmonic variances of the element. And remember, I was telling you, see, you all said, well, what the fuck is he teaching us about accretion? Remember, I did that thing on accretion. And I showed you that as an element goes through the accretion process, through a morphogenetic field, it creates the next element up. There's only one element, but the accretion process of the hydrogen goes through whatever is necessary of the vibratory wave environment in order to create the environmental elements that fit the environment. So through the accretion process, the element itself begins to change. The hydrogen element changes all into these supposedly 88 different types of elements, which is really one element. But what it is doing, it is phase shifting and adjusting to all of the elemental potentials that are in the environment that it occupies. Okay? See, I told you to study my tapes. But this is what this is about. But what they got now is, where did it go?
Check. Bill.
Yeah.
Something else. Look up, there's a Japanese scientist in Tokyo.
Right. You got the invisible coat.
Yeah, the garment.
Yes.
Which is a laser.
A laser, right.
And there's a phase conjugated material that he's wearing.
Right.
The laser actually picks up the surrounding.
The surrounding. And then it reflects it off of it.
You're seeing right through.
Can't see through him. You see right through him. Exactly. Where is it? Again, changing light, bending it, using laser projections. And what you saw at the beginning was the way that the phase array projected outward from the source. And you no longer see H.O.K. Same thing. Now, last and not least, because we're getting ready to close out and I'm going to take it to the next phase. Ladies and gentle people.
Phil.
Yeah, I know we got 5 minutes.
No, Phil. Sister Myra's here.
Oh, Sister Myra's here? Yes. Where is Sister Myra? Come here, my love. We'll put her on the tape. Okay. Brothers and sisters, I'm about to take you to the next phase of the last phase. Oh, I gotta take out the box first, right? Okay. I'm about to close out my virgin journey. How am I doing, y'all? I'm trying my best. Leaving all the rest, you know.
This technology stuff definitely can be my bag. I can learn it, but it ain't something I want to be all into. Brothers and sisters, the final phase of our lecture. Please, Queen, you gotta get us. Let's get a chair for Queen. Wait a second. Okay, she can have this one. Thank you very much, brother.
Might be better to go around that way. She's not going this way.
We all like this. First and foremost, we're going to go down here to show. How you doing, sister? Alright? Right? How's this sound? Cool? Put up volume. It's up already. It's not on.
There we go.
There it is. It's not on.
You gotta turn it up. That's all.
It's up. The volume is up.
Turn it up.
Searching for survivors and return to the streets to violence in that city under control. Armed looters are roaming the streets. It is feared violence could spin out of control. It cannot stop right now.
Try to save those who made it through the storm but may not survive the aftermath. I know you've been looking throughout the day at the New Orleans and Louisiana Superdome and down on the interstate off-ramp, the human tragedy here. So many people who have escaped from flooded homes and have absolutely nowhere to go. They are walking down bridges on a 90-plus degree day with no real destination, with no instructions about where they may be able to get help, with no real possibility for food. Not yet. Over to the left, along the Superdome, by the hundreds and hundreds they come, and down, track along the bottom of the Superdome, past the bus, all the way down to the ramps. These are the very ramps which you would walk up to for a Super Bowl or for a New Orleans Saints game. And today, people who for days have been out in the sun with no food and water, wait and wait for some place to go. To the right, you can see a chopper landing, and this has been the scene constantly throughout the day. Go out if you would, and this huge landing strip here that's been set up on the roof deck next to the Superdome reminds me of nothing less than a helicopter field just outside a military base in Iraq. I watched as they came in and out for days during our visit there.
You listen to this shit?
No water, though.
No water, no nothing. Now, going back. How do I do this? Go back. I turned it on. Control escape. Control escape. I'm enjoying this. What do I hit up now? Open document?
Go into Oh, you want to play, buddy? You want to go back to?
I want to go back to the PowerPoint. Yeah, back to the first part of the tape. Oh, wait a minute, hold on.
The Express player.
Yeah, Express video. Player.
Okay, right click on
No.
Normal screen.
Normal screen. All right, good. Good.
We got it.
Go ahead, y'all. Somebody know what they're doing. Alright, I'm going back. Okay, am I doing the right thing?
Double click.
It's not.
Nothing's on.
Nothing's on there.
Nothing's on.
No, nothing's on there.
Empty disk.
All right, empty disk. How's that? That's not true.
There you go.
Okay, here we are. All right, get out. All right, now, I got a surprise for y'all. All right, now, you want to know how HARP is going to work and how they're going to direct it to you? All right,
I want you to check something out. And check it out definitely. This is a technology that exists. Wait a minute, how do I do this? Yeah, play at the bottom. Play at the bottom. Play at the bottom? Where?
You got it, so.
Where?
Is that what you want to see? Right there?
Yeah.
Alright, then click on that one you got right there.
I want you to look. That's a shot of Madison Square Garden.
That's the same stuff they use for Saddam.
Yes, this is the top. Check it.
Bombing.
Check it. Your precision bombing. Madison Square Garden. And I want you to go to Apollo Theater.
These are all the places that
These are all the places.
We're going to have us up.
Look, this is a military.
Boom.
You checking this? Where we at?
From Sinetta.
Where we at? We're watching you, Sinetta. Right along here. You know that. Right along here.
Where I'm at.
There you at too.
Yeah.
And go to the Apollo. I love it though. And there goes Sai. Right there. Hey, Sinetta, what's up? I know. For real. Alright? So I'm ready to give you a little surprise. And where we gonna go next? We got it there. Where we gonna go next?
Yankee Stadium?
Next? Nah. Pull you out?
What's the football stadium? Where's that football stadium?
Nah. We're gonna take you back, but wait. We're gonna take you right back to where? Couldn't get the boutique going.
Okay.
So we call it the cafe, so just in case there's any COINTELPRO niggas out there watching. They're gonna be looking for a cafe, not a boutique.
Right.
But wait now.
Bust it out, Phil. Bust it out.
We zoom in on y'all right now at the boutique. Right here.
28th Street.
And here we are, right there from the corner. Walk up a little bit, and we somewhere here, right here.
Brother Phil.
Right there.
I'm right across the street from
And you
Phil,
right
baby.
across the street from here. They can zoom in on you anywhere. Right now they're watching. And they're looking at every one of us Negroes filing out of here tonight. Wanted to show you that no matter where people calling me, what am I going to do? Where do I go? No matter where you go, there you are.
Get out there, the black hand.
One last thing right here now. Before we come out, I want to show you one last thing to show you that HOK was used as a directional weapon to attack the coast, and that HOK uses the chemtrails. Known for a fact that HOK uses chemtrails as a vectorizing instrument, because if you look up at the clouds with certain glasses, that's why I'm looking at brothers who are inventors. I want you to look to see if you can create glasses like they did on the movie They Live. Because if you look off to the side of the clouds, there is a definite squaring of the cloud. Certain shapes, triangles, octagons. All of this is evidence of HOK. And lastly, before we deal with that situation, we go, and I'll pick it up from this prime less time. HOK kicks out 3.5 billion watts of power. 3.5 billion. Ladies and gentlemen, some of the symptoms to watch for when HOK is being activated. 1, a sudden itching deep inside of your ear and throat. Check. 2, your teeth all hurt at once. 3, the top of your head, especially the crown chakra, becomes extra sensitive, including the areas around your tailbone. 4, nerve, severe migraines in ultra-sensitive people. 5, pains in the joint areas of your jaw. 6, ears clogging up and popping. 7, deafness in one ear. 8, extreme irritability. 9, dull, muscle headaches, aches and pain in the back. 10, overall nausea and stomach cramps. 11, a kind of pressure felt outside the body. 12, difficult catching the breath suddenly, asthmatic conditions. 13, heart palpitations, even while you're lying still. 14, severe knife-like pains in the knees, hips, and elbows. 15, severe sinus and eye pains. 16, blurred vision. 17, sudden anxiety attacks. For no reason, you're wondering you're going to die or somebody's trying to get you, you're killing. 18, a burning laser-like pain energy shooting down one or both of your legs. Wow. And with that, I'm going to end this by showing you that yes, brothers and sisters, heart was used as a weapon. Whoa, you turned it off?
No, it's coming back on.
Oh, all right. Okay. We're going to go back into it because I want you to see this over and over again. Oh, come back to this sheet. Not playing? I got two open. There's no open file there.
Behind them for the meeting.
Right. Click the drag. Click on what?
Right click on
right click anywhere on the screen. Refresh. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it? Now click on it here.
The 25th of September.
Try closing the window and reopen it.
Which open? This one here?
Yeah, close it and reopen.
Okay.
My computer.
My computer.
25th is on
It's over here.
Sunday.
Okay.
Next week.
He doesn't want to act right here.
Brothers and sisters, remember that September the 25th, right here next week, part 2. Part 2.
All right.
No. Next week, September the 25th. What time? 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock.
Here.
Right here.
Hold on a second here, brothers and sisters. What are we talking about? I'm dancing on. I don't know which one it is. I'm closing out and going back in. Try opening it with what? Windows Media. Windows Media, all that stuff. Alright, look at here. Very, very quickly, we're going to show you that yes, heart did it. Watch. See the square vectoring, right? Watch it open up. But this is New Orleans. Did you see that? You have to watch it again. Oh, you can't go back. That's it again.
9 degrees.
See? This, if it was doing anything, it was supposed to head in that direction. But do it again. Look carefully. Came over the end of the coast of Miami. It's supposed to be traveling in this direction. It just takes a right angle, right, and then boom, right at the city.
Right. Directed.
Watch. They show you in this. Here it goes. Look at the path. Somebody was guiding it.
Eileen said that last week.
Steering the ship.
Like the plane that went into 9/11.
Exactly. 9/11, the same thing. And they have a, you can see it in the smaller. See it? You can't, I want to show you the, look carefully, this is tracks. This is Tropical Depression Adrian. They're showing you how it comes up through Pacific to the Mexican border. Tracker, Arlene. Where the hell you see one that's stay there after shooting straight across? Atlanta. This one came out, and the tracker is Dennis.
Oh. Watching the origination point?
Yes, you're watching the origination point. They boil this area first. Now this is Emily. You see they're practicing.
That's in Haiti.
Yes.
You show it on the Weather Channel. All of them bubbling out there. The next one coming, Florida's next.
They're going to see it's coming up. See, it starts over here by the coast of Africa.
West Coast.
This is all the areas where they do a good boiling job. Now this is Irene. Irene, look at the color. Look at this. Look where it was heading. It was heading up where a bunch of white folks was at. D.C.
Thank you.
And look what they did. They diverted the storm. Are y'all checking this? Yeah. All right, now we going. Here's Katrina. Watch.
New York.
Power. Next time it comes across, you go all the way.
Next time they're going to come at you. Now, here's Ophelia. Watch what they do. Look, look.
She's explaining.
Look, everybody's doing it. They're playing around with it. It stays there for a while. You remember? They didn't know where to put the shit. Remember, Operation Ophelia was actually the name, as Sister Myra reminded me, Operation Ophelia was the name, or is the name, for Northcom. A specific, an operation where they're going to start wholesale moving the population around. They're going to divide the country into 9 enclaves. Oh, another brother scout just came in, brother Nkosi. He's going to look back like another nap. What's up? That's another brother. Give right hand, baby. Another scout. Brothers and sisters that help me in my path and what they do to help me out. Again. Yeah. Yes. We call it a quits.
2 minutes is not coming.
2 minutes we got, and I'll move and say that at this point, brothers and sisters, I'm going to take you to the next phase of what this thing called HARP is and how you may protect yourself against it. We have some powerful brothers, and I don't want to call a brother's name out because I do not want this brother attacked, come after. But the brother that was talking to me, y'all gonna see this brother because he is one of the top black inventors of new world hyper energy equipment experimentation, which is some of the people that we're going to be speaking to when it comes time for you to understand how to deal with HARP. We are going to be speaking about nutrition and how we must circumvent the destruction of our genetic codes. They found in the Sudan that everybody outside of the Sudan has a 6-strand DNA in Sudan, which means black people.
Close out right quick.
Close out.
So the table won't look like it's just cut off.
Okay, yeah.
No, I'm saying right here.
Oh.
Close out.
Okay. See ya.
Part 2.
suggest everyone start getting their health in order. If you want to deal with the new kinds of things that you're going to be able to have, we have to have in order to enhance your health against the heart attacks and hyper energy attacks and hyper energy symptoms aimed at populations, you got to come and see us. Put your monies aside to come to Sister's class and put your monies aside to get products and things. Now, here's another thing. I'm going to be teaching naturopathic first aid with herbs and oils. And we're going to probably do that after we do part 2 on the 25th. Alright? So with that, if you want to find out what you need to do in order to get yourself, your energy, as well as your genetics together to strengthen it, you can come and see us. We'll tell you what to do.